Hey guys, welcome back to another week where we talk about all things real estate related. And this week we're doing my favorite video, that is the monthly market update. September numbers are in, so first we're going to take a look at September this year versus September last year. Then we're going to look at how we're sitting month by month, what we've seen the last couple of months, and what we're going to see next couple of months going forward, as well as going back and taking a look at what is going on now versus this year, the year before, and even the year before that, and see, are we on trend, how different of a market are we in, and what can we expect to see in the future. So first things first, let's take a look at the overall market versus September last year. So the average price of a home right now is $602,000. That's up about 1% from the same time last year. The sold to list price ratio is at 97.94%, which is actually down 4% from the year before. The units sold was 1,374. That's actually down 32% from last year. And the days on market is 30.61, which is up 43% from the same time last year. That's the overall market, but let's look specifically at different styles of homes. So detached homes, we saw 553 sell, with the average sale price about $750,000. That's down about 1% from last year. Semi-detached homes, we saw 60 sell, the average price being $658. That's up 4% from last year. Freehold townhomes, we saw 203 sell, average price about $605, up 1% from last year. Condo towns, 102 sold, average price $437, up 7.3% from last year. And condo apartments, we saw 159 sell, average price being $454, up about 3.5% from last year. So a new stat that we're going to start taking a look at to give us an overall picture of what we're seeing in the market is actually the months of inventory. So we're going to take the amount of active listings versus the amount of homes that we're seeing sell in a month, and that's going to calculate if no other homes came on the market, how many more months would it take us to sell out? This is actually how we base what type of market are we in. Are we in a buyer's market, an even market, or a seller's market? Typically, a seller's market is when there is less than 4 months of inventory. A balanced market would be between 4 and 6 months, and a buyer's market would be anything above that. So based off that definition, our months of inventory for the condo market at 2.7 and our months of inventory for the residential market at 3.1 would both classify as a seller's market. But if you take a look, the condo market's actually up 68% from the same time last year, while the residential market's up 158%. So you can see that we're drastically pushing towards a buyer's market, even though we aren't even technically in a balanced market yet. And as you can see, the new listing is only 5% more than the same time last year, and that's going to indicate that we're seeing a drastic drop in the amount of sales, which might point to the direction that maybe we are a bit more into a balanced market than currently in a seller's market. All right, I hope you guys are in the mood for graphs this week because I got a bunch coming at you. We're going to take a look at the market a little bit differently than we usually do. But first off, we're going to start off the same way. Look at the average sale price month by month over the last year. All right, so the last 12 months have taken us on a bit of a crazy ride where we've seen home prices skyrocket and then come right back down, with the average selling price being $602 in September of this year and $599 in October of last year. We're about the same place that we were 12 months ago. Now let's pull it back and take a look at the last 2 years. Taking a look at the last 2 years, you're going to see a similar trend where the prices skyrocketed between January and March, and then they bottomed out for the year in August to see them come back slightly in September. The average return on investment over the last 2 years was about 11%. Now let's go back 3 years to basically when the pandemic started. Now I wanted to show this graph because a lot of people think that the home prices have skyrocketed since the pandemic. And you can see that the return on investment since January 2020 is 38%. We see that home prices were actually increasing in early 2020 before the pandemic started, where they dropped sharply and then they came up, peaking somewhere around October and then getting ready for the next jump up in January of next year. But what I really want to show you guys is what was going on pre-pandemic. So taking a look at the average home price since January 2018, you can see that the average return on investment was 68%. Now we saw 38% being since January 2020, so an extra 30% just the 2 years prior to that. The average price in January of 2018 was $358,000 compared to the $602 that we saw last month. And the real reason I want to touch on that graph is because a lot of people believe that it was the pandemic that made home prices go crazy in Ottawa. And the low interest rates of the pandemic did have a lot to do with that. But if you look back further, you can see that Ottawa was already going up at a rapid rate. And that's because of the high demand and low supply that we see in the city. And also when you take a look at these graphs, you can see the massive swings of where the home price is in January compared to March, compared to August. There's massive swings throughout the year. I also want to show that the home prices actually change a lot month by month, as opposed to what most people think, that we're just seeing a gradual change year to year. Now let's take a look at the days on market. So the average days on market in January of 2018 was actually 67.3 days compared to 30 days that we're seeing today. So while the market might seem a lot slower than we're used to, it's actually a lot faster than what we're used to traditionally. And next we can look at the sold to ask ratio. So the average sold to ask ratio is actually the one that's been on the craziest ride since the pandemic. But you can see that where it was in 2018, around 97%, and where it is today is around the same, where we're starting to see it normalize a little bit. Looking back to 2 points in the last 2 years where we hit almost 114% of asking price. So while the sold to ask ratio is starting to normalize, and the days on market is starting to normalize, and the months of inventory is starting to normalize, the major difference that we're seeing from here and traditional levels is actually the units sold. So when we're taking a look at the units sold, you can see that 2018, 2019, and 2021 are very similar. 2020 being a major outlier since that was the beginning of the pandemic. So here's the same graph taking out 2020, where you can see that 2022 is the major outlier here, where we're seeing significantly less homes sell. So what does all this mean? While we are in very unprecedented and uncertain times, there's a lot of things that are starting to look very familiar and that are starting to normalize in the market. So obviously the major differences are the interest rates, which are continuing to increase, and the amount of homes sold, which is much below what we're used to seeing. As the interest rates continue to increase, buyers' ability to buy is severely damaged, which hurts demand, and that's going to cause less homes to sell. As less homes sell, inventory will increase. As inventory increases, we get further and further out of a seller's market into a balanced market and possibly into a buyer's market. And that is where I think we are still headed for in the foreseeable short-term future. We do expect interest rates to increase again at the end of this month, as well as a couple more times in the near future. And I do think home prices are going to continue to go down, but definitely not at the rate that we've seen, where we've actually seen them come up in September versus August. So maybe a big question on a lot of people's minds watching this is that if we're seeing interest rates go up and we're seeing supply go up, then how come the prices also went up between August and September? And that's really what I'm trying to get across in this video. We're focusing all our attention on the uncertainty of the economy and the rising of interest rates, but we're forgetting about the massive housing shortage that we are in the city. While we have the interest rates playing a huge external factor in the market, we have to know that the market runs on supply and demand. And while the home prices have come down significantly, almost 20% from the peak in March, you do see demand increase. And so while I do see home prices continue to go down in the next couple of months, I don't think it will be for much, and I don't think it will be for long. Because if you take a look at Ontario.ca's website, you'll see the projected increase of growth in Ottawa. So while the population of Eastern Ontario is projected to grow 36%, Ottawa is actually projected to grow way faster at 48%, going from 1 million to 1.56 million by 2046. Real estate, like any investment, should be looked at as a long-term play. And while the market can seem very volatile right now, when we look back, we can see that it actually seems that way almost every year. And while I do see home prices probably continuing to dip slightly over the next couple of months, I also see right now as an amazing opportunity to get a good deal on a property when everybody is focused on the economy and on rising interest rates. You can get a great deal before everybody switches back and focuses on the major housing shortage that we are in Ottawa and Canada as a whole, which is the main cause that the home prices have gone so crazy over the last couple of years. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this, but like always, any questions you guys have, put in the comments below. I'll make sure to make a video about it in the future, or you can always message me directly. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.